It's the Exit 52 podcast presented by Jimmy Seafood, back here on Wednesday, February 7th. It's Barstool Banks, it's Arditti, it's Taylor Smyth. We have a lot to talk about, fellas. The three of us have not potted since a lot of things have happened over the past few weeks. We're going to break it all down for you, all the Ravens news, all the Orioles news, a starting five draft presented by Fed Thrill, and all of the things you're not over. Which plays into the last couple weeks of being a Baltimore fan. But, gents, how we feeling?
I'm good. Everything is good.
Eric's great. Great.
Ready to pod. Brian is Brian's he's having a tough go of it with the dust.
I'm having a tough go of it on many fronts. Feel a little sickly, and then we're having construction at the house. There's a lot of dust in my lungs that I think is just, I don't know if exasperates the right word.
Exacerbates?
Just noodle exacerbate. I think that's the one. Noodle brain. I'm just absolutely toast right now. I'm down bad.
You need to pull the masks out for this situation. The old COVID masks. Get the dust out of there.
I remember COVID. That was fun. I'm not over it, man. It's like 10 days later. We obviously did the day of recap, the incident analysis. That's what we call those. I wake up every day and it still hurts. It still feels like it's the day after. It's miserable. It's Groundhog Day. We had the greatest opportunity that one could ask for in our own barn, and we blew it. We just absolutely shit down our leg. We fumbled at the 1 yard line again. We didn't run the football again. We didn't do so many simple things that we've done all year long. And we just straight up played loser ball. We played loser ball and we lost. That's what happens when you play loser ball.
You do normally lose when you play loser ball. Let me go over a couple of house cleaning items and we'll jump into the Baltimore Ravens. Sure. A variety of pods on a variety of things since we gathered for that incident analysis. You can go back onto YouTube and listen to all of those sad boy thoughts about the Ravens' loss right after the AFC Championship game concluded. The Jumbo Set boys then went on with a deep dive pod about the loss, about some Mike McDonald stuff, and a variety of other Ravens topics. There were then a couple of emergency pods. The Orioles sale breaking news pod with Arditti and Jake, I believe, were the two on there. We have a lot of pods I'm trying to remember. And then Corbin Burnes emergency podcast as well with Arditti helming that discussion and when that news broke. And then Jake just released a couple of podcasts. One was Spenny, the Jumbo Set from today. Another, touching on a bunch of different Ravens topics. And then a David Rubenstein deep dive that Jake expertly did. He's very good at those types of pods, taking you through who will presumably, barring something crazy, it would seem. It seems like it's going to be a pretty smooth approval process in terms of the Orioles sale. He did a deep dive on who David Rubenstein is, where the money comes from, his connection to Baltimore, all those different things for a guy that will be very well received, seemingly, as the new primary owner of the Baltimore Orioles. We will get to that and on some of our thoughts on that as a second, do some quick hitters. But let's first talk about this Baltimore Ravens postmortem. Obviously, as I said, you can go back and listen to the fresh thoughts, and you just heard some very sad, continually sad thoughts from Mr. Brian Black just now. But some things have happened. Obviously, Mike McDonald out, some other staffers out. Zach Orr in as the Ravens defensive coordinator, Jerry Rosburg in and then out based on reporting. And we haven't even gotten to what any player movement will look like yet. That was just the staff movement. And I'm sure I missed a couple of things. Brian, you talked about your inability to get over the AFC Championship game loss. But how do you analyze the staff movement so far in the offseason? McDonald was sort of feels like he was built into almost maybe a bigger figure than he deserved. Not that he didn't do an amazing job, but it was almost like Ravens fans lost God to a certain extent when he left, and he's an amazingly talented young coach who will probably win a ton of games in Seattle. But where do you see the Ravens now staff-wise? A huge swing to put Zach Orr in that position, considering his age and relatively limited coaching experience.
It kind of speaks to the notion that this was an opportunity that you just had to capitalize on because you knew this was going to happen regardless of result. I think part of why that God status was achieved, and I'm not here to say that it wasn't warranted either, is that he was by far not the scapegoat whatsoever for what happened. To the point where a lot of people were calling for John Harbaugh's head in order to retain McDonald, just move him up, somehow move John Harbaugh into like a front office role, that type of thing, which is just lunacy. And I don't know that we've really even gone down the road of the John Harbaugh criticism either. It's warranted because he's the head honcho and they played loser ball. I see the dread in your faces as I continue to go down this road, but
need a loser ball counter in the corner.
Yeah,
how many times?
Bang.
He's a big reason of why we have success year in and year out. And I can see the reasons that people argue for the idea that, hey, this is a great opportunity, this era with Lamar Jackson, to leverage that into championships, plural. I think John Harbaugh gives us the best chance of maybe 5 to 10 people on the planet to do that. There is something to be said about pounding your head against the wall repeatedly, making the same mistakes. And I think that this type of loss is definitely strike 2. So is his seat hot? In my eyes, yeah, I think it has to be. And he can go 14-3 next year, get him back to the same situation, and the same thing happens. Like, I think you have no choice but to make a change. But just the body of work just far exceeds the stupid nature of football to allow 2 blips to just totally poison 2 great seasons the way that they have. But rings talk.
Yeah.
Defensive ball, it's just total. I mean, the entire staff is turned over. Zach Orr, I think, was I can't even think. He was earmarked. That's the word I'm looking for. Earmarked to be one of these types of guys from day one after retirement. I think he was beloved in the locker room for a lot of years for not just being a productive football player, but the way he approached the game, the intensity, the studious nature at which he went from being undrafted to getting to where he was. So that's a great story that I think is a little bit lost in just the rage and the aftermath and the disappointment of losing a guy like McDonald. But I'm excited for him. I'm excited to get some fresh blood in there too. I think the turnover on the coaching staff side is a lot easier when you have the leadership that they have on the defensive side of the ball, the Roquan, the Marlins, etc. And they just have dogs on defense. They will continue to have dogs. Maybe a great segue into our next topic here, but I feel strongly that Matabike will be re-signed or tagged at the very worst. I think he'll get the extension, and those dogs will hunt yet again. So it stinks on paper. There may be a learning curve. Like, McDonald was not hot out of the gates, at the beginning of last season, but he obviously found his stride. We may have a little bit of a learning curve here for the defense as they make some changes, but all things considered, there's no reason why they can't go be the best defense in football next year.
Yeah, for sure. I think that, thinking about this as it's gone through the week, I think there were multiple in-house options, it felt like, for the Ravens based on just assumption and based on reporting of who the defensive coordinator could have been. Denard Wilson or Anthony Weaver. And it feels like they potentially go with Orr there. He's the farthest away from becoming a head coach or becoming a head coaching candidate, it would seem. So maybe you're looking for a little multi-year stability by going with a guy like that, as opposed to theoretically Weaver, who seems on the doorstep of getting a head coaching opportunity based on the last couple of off seasons. I know when Spenny was chatting about it, before the news, he thought he was pretty convinced it was going to be Wilson. He obviously went on to a different opportunity there. But Orr has all the sort of young coordinator riser energy that McDonald had. So you hope that that's a similar level of success, with hopefully not that long of a transition curve of, which I think, as you said, Banks, is very much helped by the fact that their personnel is very, very well put together on that side of the football with really, really influential player leaders that Orr worked very closely with. I mean, worked really closely with a guy like Roquan Smith day to day. So that you hope that kind of eases the transition for them. But then they, have other defensive coaching places they now need to kind of go through and bring people in on. So we'll see how those get filled. And then, as you said, it brings you to the question of where guys stay and guys leave on the defensive side of the ball, which we'll have an entire offseason to kind of discuss. But I would say it feels like in the will they stay, will they go for a Madubuike and a Queen, the Madubuike feels closer to staying and Queen seems pretty close to leaving based on the financial realities of what they're trying to do and based on the fact that I think a Madubuike is a little bit harder to find than a Queen positionally. So they certainly will have questions now defensively going into game one. I think there's also obviously the reason you want McDonald to stay is because you just don't have, as you said, well said, in terms of not being a scapegoat, so you don't blame him for anything, but also you just feel so secure about that side of the ball going into next year if he's on the sideline. Now there's question marks on both sides. Obviously, always the offensive question marks of what it'll look like as they get through towards the playoffs. And now defensively, are they going to be good enough under a new coordinator with some new personnel? Whereas, and then on the offensive side, obviously they have the coaching stability, which helps a lot. Arditti, what are your kind of thoughts on the Ravens defensive situation?
Yeah, I mean, McDonald, I put it in the group chat like a month ago where I was like, after the Titans fired Vrabel, and I was like, Spenny, like what's going on with McDonald? Like, this is the guy I want. And again, he was like, I don't know, like probably next year, I think that's when his time will come. And then it kind of died down during the playoffs. And everyone's like, all right, I think it looks like they're going to keep Monken. They're going to be able to keep McDonald. They should have their staff pretty much intact. And then it just kind of it got ravaged. What was the guy's name? Horitz? I always want to say Horowitz. I know it's not. It's Joe Horitz, right?
Yeah.
With Jim out in LA as the GM. And then you got, who was it? Weaver went to Miami. I don't even know, again, our the Titans defensive coordinator, who was that? That was what's his name?
Denard
guy
Wilson.
who you mentioned, Taylor. Yeah. So again, he's gone. McDonald was obviously a big loss, and I think Seattle's perfect for him. That's kind of a cool little I think place for him to go and make his mark. But I mean, I saw the same stuff you guys were, the elevate Harbaugh, make McDonald your head coach, and it's just that was never gonna work in any way. I mean, I know Harbaugh is the second oldest coach in the league, but I mean, that guy has a lot of years left, I would think, coaching. And like you said, I mean, he's a big reason that the Ravens are pretty much in the conversation every single year, except for a handful of seasons with injuries and blah, blah, blah. But again, I mean, as someone who's seen Mike Munchak and fucking, what was that guy's name? Wisenhunt, guys like that, I would kill for a John Harbaugh type coach, there's a lot worse things out there than having John Harbaugh coach your team. So it was interesting to see kind of the dialogue between, the two sides on Ravens Twitter. And I mean, the losing all the assistants and guys on the staff, it sucks because it's like you get penalized every year for being so good like the Ravens are, and they just get their guys picked off. And it's kind of hard to build continuity and stuff like that when you're losing a defensive coordinator or a secondary coach every other offseason and stuff like that. But I think McDonald was awesome. He said he had this God, we have to keep him. This is Bill Belichick Jr. And people definitely liked him. And it's not like anyone was sour that he left anything. So, who knows if down the line he ends up coming back or something later. But it was interesting just to watch it all unfold. You talk about them bringing back Madubuike, which I think has to be the right move. I think it's much harder to replace sacks than it is, to replace a guy like Queen in the middle of the defense. But I also think I'm sure they're going to get Derrick Henry. I think that's pretty understood thing that's going to happen. So we'll revisit this after the off season. But yeah, again, the way that the Ravens season ended and how everyone kind of got offloaded kind of just went so quick, and no one really had a chance to catch their breath, especially with all the Orioles stuff coming out, and that kind of softened the blow for some people. Obviously, some a little, not as much, but yeah. Again, it's going to be interesting. The Ravens will still be there next year. Again, Lamar is going to win MVP Saturday, so Ravens fans seem to have a lot of doom and gloom right now, but I mean, they got to be the odds-on favorite to win the division next year, and I'm sure they'll make a run then too, regardless of who they have coaching defense or this guy or that guy and who they have playing linebacker and all that.
Yeah, for sure. I think that they'll no doubt be in the driver's seat to be one of the best teams in the AFC. And the question will, they're sort of I had a friend make this comparison, but like in the same position as Purdue men's basketball right now, where you're so good every year that the regular season doesn't matter. And they lose like every year in the first or second round with a team that should go farther. And I think Ravens fans feel that way about the Ravens. It's like the 2019 team should have gone farther. This team should have gone to the Super Bowl. That team should have gone a little farther. That team should have gone a little farther. And that can keep kind of unfortunate pressure on a head coach like John Harbaugh, who's put together a pretty consistent product and culture in the field, but, has gotten to the point where he hasn't won a big one in over a decade. And that, weighs on a fan base that feels like they should maybe have more rings. So that will be interesting to see how that narrative develops. Like you obviously want your team to win as a fan because you're happy, but I almost just wanted the Ravens to get to the Super Bowl and win just so like 80 narratives would just no longer happen anymore, that we didn't have to talk about them anymore. And now they stretch it in next year, regardless of what happens, which is unfortunate because the Ravens still had a fantastic season and got very, very close to getting to the end. But ultimately, I think I said it in one of the shows prior to the AFC title game where it was the instant analysis after the division or whatever. It felt like the Ravens were the best team, and the question was, could they win 3 consecutive games? And they didn't do it. So that's on players, coaches, and we'll see who's intact for the start of next year. But I would agree. I'm not in the same boat as Banks in being down in the dumps, but I do see Super Bowl coverage this week, and I'm like, oh my God, why? How are we not in this game?
It's rainy and shitty out there, though. Nobody would have wanted to go. That you got to think about it like that. Like I was talking, Johnny said it the other day. He's like, "Thank God we're not out there. That weather is fucking awful." You gotta.
I love that spin. I love that
glass half full.
Let's move on to the Baltimore Orioles here. Big news, obviously, over the last couple of weeks. Want to make sure we start with the biggest. Jacob Webb winning his arbitration, gets $1 million going into next year.
That is definitely not the biggest.
I think that's the big. You're saying that's not the biggest news over the sale and over Austin Hayes.
Coke is coming back to the stadium.
I was gonna get to that.
How do you not lead off with that? I mean, I said
it was a neck and neck race. It was a neck and neck race.
I would rather have Coke at the stadium than Corbin Burnes. I'll be flat out honest.
Wow.
Yeah. Put that on
what a statement.
Card. Yeah.
What a statement.
Uncle David just making everything happen this offseason.
Let's start with the post-mortem of the sale news. I think we start there as a trio here. Arditti, you obviously have been on these airwaves and been on the blogosphere and on Twitter, putting out a lot of comments. So we can kind of review those. Obviously, the news breaks right after, a couple of days after the Ravens glumness that this is going to happen. It feels like now, based on the reporting the last few days, that it's going to be a pretty quick and easy process. I'm not shocked, considering based on potential Angelos reputation, maybe there are owners in the league and the league office that would welcome some investment into the franchise and a kind of a bigger power player as the as the Orioles owner. So it's not a total shocker on the outside looking in. But this has totally, in terms of rejuvenating a franchise's, their trust was already been built up over, the winning of the last year and how stocked the franchise is. But now you put a new guy at the top, and it's the best Orioles fan base feeling in 30 years? It's amazing, because there was always the dread for some fans, even with the winning going on, of, oh my God, they're not going to sign these guys. This is, this window isn't as open as people think. And, you have to wait till a guy buys a team and actually invests, but seemingly you've put somebody in charge that can now keep this going for the next 8 to 10 years. So it's a pretty amazing feeling, I think, as a Baltimore baseball fan.
Yeah. Again, we were trying to talk about, I blogged it the other day and it sounded kind of loserish. And that's what Carabas told me when I was on their podcast, that this has been the best week of my life as an Oriole fan. We've never won a World Series. I've seen ALCS, we've seen, Rookie of the Year, we've seen all these great performances, but it's this is by far, I think, the best week of any Orioles fan's like career while watching them, like being invested in them. Again, stuff that we never thought would happen. A change in ownership, like a straight up, here it is. No like funny business. And again, like it seems like it's going to go through, like you talked about. Matt Weyrich, the new guy for the Sun, tweeted, source told Baltimore Sun, the league's ownership committee did discuss the Orioles sale today at the owners' meetings in Orlando, and added that the vetting process with David Rubenstein isn't expected to take long. So again, it seems like this thing is moving. And like you said, Taylor, why wouldn't it? It's not like there's no owners down there in Orlando like, whoa, you know, John is a great guy. We have to keep him around. I think everyone's like, yeah, just sign it, you know, tell me where to sign and we're good. You know, let's vote and get this thing over with. So I mean, I still had people being like, I don't, you know, we have to wait till everything's signed, you know, and he could back out. And it's like, no, this thing is about as done can get. Like it's good to go. So yeah, I mean, again, you know, we had the excitement of that on last Tuesday, and you know, nobody really knew if it was real or not. I had never heard of Puck News before last Tuesday. Like I had them blocked, actually.
Puck News is great.
I had them blocked because I was going through and blocking anyone that did ads on Twitter because I was like, get these out of my face. So I was like, all right, what is this clown account that I have blocked already? And lo and behold, it was, you know, I blocked my, you know, the best news that I've ever seen in my life. But yeah, again, that news coming out on that Tuesday was just fantastic, and people are rejuvenated, like you said. I had people like DM me being like, you know, at 8:00 on Tuesday, being like, I just re-upped my season tickets, and then I had someone else be like, I just bought season tickets. Like I've never had season tickets, I just bought season tickets, and it's like, see, people are excited again, and you know, I got buddies going down to spring training who have never been, just you know, because now they want to go and they're fully invested. So it seemed like the perfect pick me up for the city. And again, people are very excited. And then obviously the news that happened the next day or 2 days later, 48 hours later and all that. It's been a roller coaster of emotions in Baltimore the last week. But it seems like, again, a lot of people are drinking the Orioles Kool-Aid and it's kind of taking some of the sting away from the Ravens. But again, it's been nothing but great news. For the Orioles and everything around them, unless you're, I guess, T. Rowe Price, who I don't know if you guys, I mean, John Edwards agreeing with T. Rowe Price to put the you know, T. Rowe Price Park, I think they said, at Camden Yards. And it was supposed to be announced yesterday on Tuesday, and just didn't tell him he was selling the team. Like you just talk about one last like middle finger. Like he was probably hoping he could like sell the naming rights and then just dip out and just like one last fuck you to the fans. Like I pictured him like DX chopping his way out of the office, as you know, he's like, oh yeah, your naming rights are gone now. But I don't know, little Johnny boy J can't do this anymore. It's all about Rubenstein, and it's onward and upward from here.
Banks, thoughts on this week in Orioles sale transaction, or a couple weeks, I guess?
It's been the saving grace. It's actually been unbelievable timing for this to come in when it did. I literally can't think of anything that, like, from a macro perspective, like, oh, one quick signing, like a trade, Corbin Burnes. That's awesome. Like that helps, but that is like, that's a Band-Aid, or that's a one-time thing. A Daddy Rubenstein is a forever gift. That's a gift that keeps on giving. Like that is the eternal hope that you need when you feel the despair that the city feels right now regarding the teams. It is the perfect pivot to just turn everyone's attention towards something new, something exciting. The other half of the city, like, bam, we got all the momentum. We had a great year. There was a letdown on that too, but spring eternal, all that bullshit. You know what I'm saying by that. Spring hopes eternal. Hope
springs eternal.
Hope springs eternal. I probably should have just continued by saying fuck it on this one, but did we get it?
Hope springs eternal. Yeah.
Hope springs eternal. Yes. Nailed it. Yes, no, this is as excited for an Orioles season as I think we could ever be. And again, it's like not even just about this season. It's about the next decade of Orioles baseball. Like the ceiling's the roof.
And again, I mean, you talk about how people are excited. Like you said, it's not it's a big picture thing. again, Rubenstein is what, 74, 75 years old, I think. But the fact that Cal is back involved and Grant Hill is involved and Michael Bloomberg and Michael, or I can't pronounce that guy's name, like Arditti or something like that. Like, I mean, the amount of people involved in this, like it's, I don't know. Again, I still can't get over it. Like, I still have people DMing me being like, I can't believe this is real. And like, this saved us at the perfect time. And like you said, this isn't the quick Band-Aid analogy is good. Like, it's not just a quick fix me up. Like, I need something to get me through. Like, this is a franchise changing move. And again, it's something it's exactly what Commanders, Redskin football team fans went through. They probably went through a point where they were like, this is never going to get better. This will never, ever. Snyder is always going to own the team as long as we're fans, blah, blah, blah. And a lot of us probably had those same thoughts about Angelos. And again, it seemed like they'd been working on it for a couple of weeks, I guess, at least. And you know, we had heard some rumblings in the group text about it. And lo and behold, it came out to be true. And the little man's reign is over. And it's just, there's no better time to be a Baltimore Oriole fan than right now. And again, just the Corbin Burnes trade. And, oh, by the way, Jackson Holiday is going to be down at spring training. And I assume he's going to start opening day at second base. The opening day this year is going to be unlike any other opening day that's ever been. It's going to be absolutely incredible. Like, I legitimately cannot wait for that. So it's just, I could go on and on about this forever, but it's awesome. It's perfect time.
Yeah, it's well said. I think the other thing, first of all, Rubenstein has also done a fantastic job, like with little small PR things since he bought the team. The tweet about Cal, I love that he just shamelessly shilled his like Bloomberg podcasts and videos and stuff on his Twitter. It's like, go watch my conversations with historians and my thoughts on investing.
And I will watch it.
Sure,
we will watch every single one.
Absolutely, put it on there. But you go through it, and you can definitely go through and listen to Jake's pod about Rubenstein. I think the interesting part about, I'll say two off the field things. I think the on field investment is clearly going to uptick. You don't buy a team and then not at least invest at the beginning. You just don't. Maybe it will settle into some place where he does different things financially, but you're going to infuse the club with money if you're going to try to get some return on investment here. I am fascinated to see how he tries to continue to transform the club's image off the field. I think it does get lost that the Orioles did a lot of really good things in the community over the course of the years, even with some of the bad PR that the Angelos has had as operators. I do think that they really did invest in the community in a lot of different ways, sending the players out, doing all those different things. Rubenstein's track record of like philanthropy and his connections around the area in those ways, I'm interested to see how the Orioles like go about, like they do they, and really get the club ingrained in the community even more with kind of just what he does day to day from a philanthropy standpoint. The other statement he had in the press release was continuing to talk about the investment around Camden Yards as well. Like that was a big sticking point of the Angelos deal, was trying to figure out, I guess we don't really know what those two terms are once ownership changes. I think that would be just us wildly speculating, but clearly Rubenstein wants to do similar things around the ballpark, which, while it was a consternation thing around the like long-term lease with the ballpark, there definitely need to be improvements made in terms of the around Camden Yards atmosphere. And I'm fascinated to see, the Rubenstein dealings with Mayor Scott and Governor Westmore and how they kind of now put this together with what the Ravens are now doing in and around M&T Bank Stadium, and how much they're going to improve that place to an already great game day experience is going to even get ratcheted up. The Orioles keeping pace with that. I'll be interested to see just kind of how those plans get rolled out too, because I think the club, and I'm sure they realize this, has a major opportunity to totally flip some of the PR stuff on its head. Just as you said, Arditti, like I'm buying I've heard people say, I'm buying a mini pack, I'm buying season tickets. Like that stuff's just going to happen naturally. And if you can just build on that with, well-timed and well-placed community stuff and some of the around ballpark improvements that's done in a tasteful way, I mean, they can really hit the ground running here and get back in a much better position than they were, I think, from a public relations standpoint. So that will be really, really fascinating to watch. Obviously, the Corbin Burnes trade didn't hurt to, have that announced a couple of days after. Obviously, Mike Elias's comments were that trade had been being worked on for a while and that John Angelos approved the deal. I'll take him at face value for that. Obviously, you can go through with that and be like, hey, they had to wait And maybe that was, John Angelos being a good business partner, waiting for the ownership to kind of get announced and then going through with that deal with Rubenstein's approval. I don't think we don't need to get on the weeds on any of that stuff, but that's a game changer for the Orioles. That's your opening day starter. And that feels like it's funny. We talked about like the Orioles rotation and how, they obviously needed that one extra piece. And then you just see Burnes as the name on the top of the rest of those 4 or 5 guys. And you're like, wow, it really, really, really falls into place now.
Yeah. I mean, anytime you can add the 20, he's been the best pitcher. He's been arguably the best pitcher in baseball, second best pitcher in baseball since 2021. Like it's a big sample size. All he does is make 32, 33 starts a year. All he does is strike people out. Like I'm thinking about betting on him to lead baseball in strikeouts. Like him with Ad, like that combination is going to be just so lethal. And again, I mean, you talk about Brad the year he had and the second half Grayson had, but Corbin Burnes has been doing this for a long, long time, and he's an awesome pitcher. He's somehow just still getting better. He didn't have his best year last year, but he's still an incredible pitcher. And again, I mean, you read around, baseball and everyone is just like this rotation went from like, okay, they're good. Like we saw what they did last year, they were okay. Second half, all their guys were really good, but now it's like Grayson Rodriguez is going to be your 3. Healthy John Means is your 4. Like, are you kidding me? And then again, you can put Wells or Irvin or, any of those guys in the 5 spot, Dean Kramer. Like this, just the trickle down effect this has is just incredible. And it just improves this team so much. I still think they need one more bullpen arm. That was probably lost with the DL Hall trade. And it does suck to see DL, move on. And we've talked to him and he's going to kill it in Milwaukee and get the opportunity to start. And I just saw they just signed Gary Sanchez too. So that has to be tough going from Adley to Gary Sanchez back behind the plate. But again, him and Joey Ortiz, I think, are going to kill it in Milwaukee. But this is a trade. I mean, if you can make it, you got to make it. And I was told after the trade that they had been working on this since December. Like apparently it almost went through in December and then it got kind of called off. So who knows what happens, but again, the deal was done. And I mean, we were saying, Brian, I don't know if you were it may have been a different group chat. This is the biggest trade since Tejada. Tejada
wasn't even a trade.
Yeah, no, he's like the biggest acquisition, I guess. Because like I wasn't counting Adam Jones and Tillman because we didn't know that was Bedard for prospects, and they just turned into Chris Tillman.
This never happened.
What you weren't?
You can argue it's the biggest. You can argue it's the biggest trade since they traded for Frank Robinson.
Yeah. But
I mean, that's really what you're talking about. I mean, there's just nothing else that really, Tejada is definitely the biggest offseason. It's the biggest offseason acquisition since that. But yeah. I mean, Banks is right. Like, there's really nothing and that was what's crazy. I think to other fan bases, I'm like saying that to people that don't root for the Orioles, and they're like, seriously, they've never like made a big deal. And I'm like, no,
yeah, not
like from a trade stand. No, they haven't, and partly because they, weren't constructed this way where they have the guys that you need to put together trades for these type of guys, and whether they sign Burnes long-term or he's a 1-year rental, we will see. I also think, and you said they need another bullpen arm. I think there's a room to potentially trade for another starter if they want.
Yeah,
but they have the ammunition to go and do it. And the question will be whether they see it play out towards like the trade deadline and see where they are as a team, or do they just kind of like go all push the chips in and say, look, we have, see what happens in spring training and see where the roster falls and be like, look, we don't need this guy now. Like, we just don't have the room. Theoretically, they could use that to get a veteran bat too, if they want. I mean, they are now they've made this move, you go in for a guy that's not signed long-term, like you are trying to win the whole thing this year. I mean, you are trying, unless they had planned to sign him long-term, which I hope that, maybe you see what you have and then you do that, but you don't bring this guy in if you're not going to make the other moves necessary to try to win the whole thing. I mean, that has to be the calculation. This is the liftoff. I mean, this is the liftoff just a year later.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it sucks it took this long, but like, again, I don't know what you can say about Elias, like making this trade again to only lose. And again, I hate to say only DL Hall because we like DL Hall. I think he was going to be really good this year, but to only lose DL, Joey Ortiz, and then that 34th pick, like that's, I mean, again, that's a trade you have to make. And the fact that, again, it seemed like I don't know what the fuck they're thinking, but apparently they are asking for the moon and the stars for Dylan Cease. I don't know if you guys saw the Braves had their stop or whatever. He was at like a Today Show setup where there were windows behind him, and a guy had written on his phone like trade for Dylan Cease and was holding it up. And the GM of the Braves, who makes every smart move possible and fleeces every team, turned around, saw the kid holding the sign that said trade for Cease. I tried. He's too expensive. For a GM to openly say that, that's pretty crazy. Like, you never hear that. You never hear a GM openly be like, no, we tried. That guy is like, they're asking way too much. So again, I don't know what the White Sox thought they were going to get. Maybe that extra year of control for Cease, they wanted a lot more, but they royally screwed up, it seems. And again, the Orioles can still go out and get Dylan Cease if they want, because again, they still have all their major trade chips in Colton Cowser and Heston Kjerstad and Kobe Mayo and Austin Hayes if you want to trade it. Cedric, Santander. You can move any of these guys, because that's the thing. They didn't fracture their farm system trading for Burnes. And yeah, I'm excited. He seems excited. I've watched every interview and piece of content I can involving him. So he seems to be fully on board. And again, I'm pretty jacked up to watch him pitch to Adley. And it is funny now, like, again, this 2 weeks ago, nobody was having this conversation. This week, it's like, so who starts opening day? Is it Bradish or is it Burnes? And I'm just like, I kind of do like the Antonio Banderas, like, sit back gif where I kind of, you just like smile and you're like, I can't believe we're having a conversation if Corbin Burnes should start for the Orioles on fucking opening day. Like, what a world we're living in where that's a conversation. Like, it's
and I think it should be said before we move on to a couple other quick notes. Like, they traded the 34th pick. They still have their own first-round pick and another comp pick. So they still have 2 first-round picks that they're gonna, put back into the club if they trade other guys. And then for hardcore fans, it's gonna shock anybody, but I just think it should be read off. The Orioles then on MLB Pipeline, even with that trade, still have the number 1 prospect in baseball, the number 17 prospect in baseball, the number 19 prospect in baseball, the number 30 prospect in baseball, and the number 32 prospect in baseball.
And
I mean, that is just an
fringe.
We talked about how this embarrassment of riches could potentially get divvied up, how many people contributed to the big league club and how many people got jettisoned out. And it is now, you see in this, and it's like, oh my God, we can't trade this guy. We can't trade this guy. You see what you can get if you have this amount of depth. You can continue to keep the real difference makers that you want and still bring in high impact guys like this. And you, as you said, Arditti, just like, what can you say about Mike Elias? You really can't rebuild a team any better than this. You can't. And maybe it will never end in a World Series title, but in terms of rebuilding a team from the ground up, and yes, there were some pieces left by the Duquette regime that have been super valuable. There's no doubt about it. But to like get it to this point is pretty amazing. Couple other things I talked about. Oh, God.
No, you're probably going to talk about it. But again, another thing that I think is like a trickle down from this guy, like, players are openly excited about this. Like, players are reposting the Rubenstein stuff on Twitter, on Instagram. Austin is his agent after he won his arbitration, hearing, and he should have. Congrats to him. Like, guys, the guy started an All-Star game last year, but his agent came out and was like, look at Austin, a lifetime Oriole. Those comments weren't there last year, under Angelos. These comments haven't been there in the past. So again, now this is a thing where it's like, it sounds like guys have been like, hey, yeah, now I want to be here. I want to stick here for the long haul. So that's another thing. It's like, now you start looking at extensions for your guys, and Jackson's going to be tough, and Gunner's going to be tough because of the Scott Boras thing, and Boras is also a rep for Burnes. So that's going to be tough too. But I mean, I go to Adley tomorrow, and we saw the Bobby Witt Jr. deal.
I was going to say the Bobby Witt Jr. deal just set the market on some of this stuff.
Yes, and again, good for him. He's a hell of a player. He's an incredible player. That 2019 draft, Adley, Bobby Witt, Corbin Carroll, Gunnar Henderson, Joey Ortiz, like, there are just guys everywhere in that draft. It's an incredible draft, just for baseball, not just for like the Orioles. But again, it seems like guys are like, hey, now I'm down. I want to stick around. I want to be here. Again, it's like, oh, they're trading for Corbin Burnes. Do not want to be here now, Again, I think Adley is a doable deal. I would go to him with like 8 for 175 to start out right now and be like, hey, here's the round. Like, let's start working around it. He's a little older. He turned 26 yesterday. Like, we'll start, maybe an opt out after 5 or 6 years or something like that. But I think Adley's where you start, and then you kind of fill in the pieces around him. But again, it's just this is stuff that we've only dreamed of talking about this podcast and not like actually ever done in real life. So it's easy that it's happening. So
yeah, you hit the Austin Hayes thing that I was going to say there. Those comments from his agent were ones we have not heard from a lot of players, and he would obviously be a valuable guy to sign long term if you can get him at the right price. Because they're going to have to figure out, as you said, what they're going to do with their money here moving forward and dealing with the guys. And it will be an inevitability that they can't keep everybody. I mean, that is going to happen.
Yeah.
They're not going to keep everybody that they homegrown guys are going to go other places and get more money. But at this point, you have to trust Mike Elias to make the right moves. He's a trust him till he's not kind of guy. It's a little like Ozzie Newsome, Eric DaCosta, like at this point where it's like kind of have to trust them until they, make a major screw up. And he really hasn't.
I'll go out on a limb and I'll say they extend someone. I don't know who, I don't know how much, I don't know what, but I think they extend someone before spring training's up. I'll go out on that limb and say that.
Yeah, be interesting who that is. Who would you guys predict? We'll end the Orioles talk about this. Who would you guys predict that they re-sign first? Who gets the first extension?
Could be any of the outfielders. I know that they offered first baseman an extension. Could be Adley. I'll go. I'll say Cedric. I'll say Ced.
Brian?
Trying to think who's in that right window where they're not too early in their career. I mean, I think God, that would be so early. If they just went and extended Gunnar, I think that would just set the world on fire.
No, that would be Jesus.
You could say the same about Adley, but I feel like they wouldn't be as eager to do it just because they can play with the risk of letting that play out a little further with Basallo behind him. Like, should something go sideways with Adley, God forbid, they wouldn't be necessarily, tied down with a big contract. But yeah.
I think it's one of those mid-range guys. I think it's a Mullins or a Hayes. I think they do that as like a, get a guy locked up on a mid deal, mid kind of money deal. If you're going to extend Gunnar, you're going to have to give him something like this Bobby Witt contract. So that will be very interesting to see if the Orioles under new ownership say, like, let's go decade for around 300. Like, that is a commitment we've never seen them make. And we've never seen the Royals make either. So it was I saw it the other day. And I was like, that is shocking. They're under new ownership as the last few years as well. So that would be the statement. That would be like if Rubenstein took over the controlling share and Gunnar was signed to that kind of deal over a month. I mean, Orioles fans would not know what to do with themselves at that point, as you said. Like, that would be ridiculous. But I think they ultimately try to secure maybe one of those, 28, 29-year-old guys as opposed to one of the 23 to 25-year-old guys, 21 to 25-year-old guys. So we shall see. And as you said, it was going to be my last topic, Arditti, but yeah, Coke heading back into Camden Yards, replacing Pepsi reportedly as the drink provider there. So you seem thrilled. Well, I'm happy for you, Arditti. You seem thrilled.
Off season was already won before. Now I think this just absolutely stamps it. Like, this has been by far the greatest. I mean, these are the three greatest moves in Orioles history.
The other quick thing is there was, and you kind of touched on it, Arditti. Obviously, the spring training invitees came out. No surprise, all the top guys down there that aren't necessarily on the 40-man. The Jackson Holiday comments, it feels like full systems go from all parties there. From Elias, from Holiday himself. He's going to get every opportunity, as you said, Arditti, I think, to start an opening day based on how he plays in spring training. And I don't think there should be any reason at this point to not do that.
And I've said it for, I think, a couple months. I think he's your opening day second baseman. I think they just traded for Corbin Burnes 1 year left. Not like, oh, okay, we have to kind of play around. Like, and people are like, no, the time. I think just like a lot being like, you know what? With this kid, fuck service time. Like, let's go win this right now. Because again, what is service time is not going to help them next year if Corbin Burnes isn't here. Like I think Elias is going to drop his balls on the table and just say, hey, we're doing this. So
yeah,
I think that's
also Jackson Holliday is just
happen.
Type of talent that overcomes the fact that you want to hold him out for service time. You're going to have to extend. I mean, you're going to have to make the guy whole if he's the way he's going to be.
Yeah, he's Bryce Harper. He's Juan Soto. Like he's all these guys. You know, like it's
Machado.
Yeah, he's Machado. Like that's. I think so. And I saw his Instagram. I think he's already down at spring training. He posted the locker.
I saw that as well.
So I think he's already down there. So again, that kind of tells you. I know CNL Perez is down there. A couple of the other guys have already gone down. So I know going down is like people do it all the time now. But again, it seems like people are like, all right, I'm itching to go. Like let's get this going. So I'm very pumped right now. Very, very excited.
Yeah, spring training should be very excited, and we'll obviously have podcasts on podcasts. Last quick thing to say, and it's a major thing to say about the Orioles. X52 live at the opening day, Jimmy Seafood TailGOAT. Some details on that to come, but the boys will be doing some live programming from the TailGOAT. Make sure to buy your TailGOAT tickets in that stead. We'll have more kind of details on who we're going to have on and what we're going to do as we get closer, but the boys will all be there prior to the Orioles opening day game against the Angels, which, my God, what a day that is for me. March 28th, DJ Pauly D back in Baltimore to perform there. You were already involved in his appearance in Baltimore for the Ravens TailGOAT, Arditti.
If we can get Pauly D on the podcast to come by and talk a little Adley, talk a little Jackson, that would be fire. That would be fantastic. Yeah.
Probably people that listen to this show probably very familiar with the TailGOAT offerings. But a really real, I mean, we've now been to a bunch of them, and just a fantastic experience. Ticket packages ranging from $50 to $835. There's some like game ticket combinations, premium general admission tickets to the actual TailGOAT, and then you can add an upper level ticket, some bus transport. So $85 in the starting ticket there, but all you can eat food, bunch of different drink options. Obviously DJ Pauly D performing a set. Go to tailgoat.com to find the rest of those details. I don't need to list out everything on the website here, but an experience that kind of speaks for itself. And the folks at Jimmy's do a fantastic job with that. And we'll be there, hopefully having some great guests that appear there on the show and all the different people. So make sure to come by and buy tickets if you haven't already. It should be an awesome event. Arditti, anything else to say about that?
I was just going to ask if I can quickly read off the food menu that they used today.
Go ahead.
The Reuben, the Uncle David Reuben, Krabby Dog, all beef hot dog with crab dip on top, loaded brown peas, sausage, peppers, onions, all on a dog, grilled barbecue ribs, buffalo wings, crab cake egg rolls, loaded mac and cheese bites, and then a full raw bar. I may go into a food coma live on the broadcast.
Yeah,
it's gonna be incredible.
And then I would imagine in some way, shape, or form, all five of us will probably be at the game, I think. So obviously maybe we do something meetup wise prior to the game in the stadium. But make sure to get your tickets to the TailGOAT. Should be an awesome experience on opening day.
Make sure you request off. Get those requests off in.
Get those requests in. Right. Get those requests. I mean, that, as you said, RDT, with the buzz that's going to build, that is going to be an opening day that has not been seen in a long time. I mean, this year's was a little more exciting with the Adley stuff and everything, but this is going to be I think those orange carpet introductions are going to be pretty electric. And unlike they've been in the past. Let's get to our starting five draft presented by Fed Thrill. Go to fedthrill.com, use the promo code EXIT52 to discount some sunglasses today. Starting to get a little warmer here as we roll through February. It got very cold there around the Ravens games a couple of weeks ago, but now, in the 50s, looks like it'll be in the 60s on Saturday. So you're going to need those sunglasses, certainly for opening day. Wear them to the TailGOAT. Go to fedthrill.com, use the promo code EXIT52. To go back to Sad Boy Banks, he had the suggestion for this one. Things you're not over is the starting five draft presented by Fed Thrill, which can be in a variety of things: sports, life, pop culture. Who knows what people will say? And I will do as I normally do, randomize the draft live here. If I could get this draftordergenerator.com, a little free pub for them to work. RDT, you have the first pick. I have the second pick, and Banks, you have the third pick in this draft. So let me get that down. And RDT, you let's start us off. Starting five draft presented by FedThrill.
This is a no-brainer for me. I think it's Jeffrey Mayer. We'll never get over that fucking punk just reaching over, didn't even catch the ball. And again, I remember being in the Ulrich's living room, and all of the dads were screaming. And my dad's a Yankee fan, and he was watching
the legendary Ulrich's living room.
Hey, you'll never forget it. But like that was the first time that I remember being like, oh my God, like this is like this is kind of something. And again, that little fucking pipsqueak reaching over and then being on the Today Show and on the cover of every, this and that magazine and this newspaper, and that rat face getting just brought around New York City. And then when he was in college, they were like, oh, the Orioles could draft him. He played D3 baseball somewhere and like set their school hit record. And they were like, the Orioles may look to draft him and all that. And it was like, that would have been, the city would have been lit on fire if they would have drafted that kid. So I do remember I found his Twitter. It was like 11 years ago. And it was all just his work and family stuff. And I was going to call him out. And then I was like, it's like last week was about his daughter. And I was like, I can't, he's a family guy. And then like, I immediately was like, I should have just fucking ripped him. But yeah, Jeff Mayer, I think that's I thought it would be the consensus number one for.
I can't argue it. I can't argue it. I think in terms of like Baltimore stuff, it ranks very much near the top.
Changed the course of the two franchises' trajectories,
Yeah. I can't argue with that pick. It's a very good number one pick. I'm going to take you back to March 21st, 2010. Spokane, Washington, Maryland, Michigan State, second round of the NCAA tournament. Terps kind of out of it, going through the second half. Gravis Vasquez heroically brings them back. Makes a shot to take the lead with about, I don't know, like 10, 11 seconds left, maybe a little deeper in the clock. Michigan State comes down, ball pass across the court should clearly hit Draymond Green in the head. It somehow does not. And then Corey Lucius bangs a top of the key three-pointer to end the Maryland season and really was the last gasp of the Gary Williams era as well. A team that won a share of the ACC title. And a young Taylor Smyth absolutely had a meltdown that I won't get too deep into. But I think about that a lot, and I have not gotten over it, not only because of the nature of the loss, not only because it ended Vasquez's career, which was among the most beloved, not only because it sort of was the end of the Gary era for all intents and purposes, but they had a clear path to the Final Four. If they win the game, they go to the Sweet 16 and play Northern Iowa, who would upset Kansas, the Ali Farouk-Manesh team. Then they play a 6 seed in the Elite Eight if they get there in Tennessee. Probably have a great chance to beat them. And then if they're in the Final Four, they play the Butler team that lost to Duke on the heave. Easily could have been in the national title game against a Duke team they'd already beaten that year. That is a long stretch of way to go in the way that the tournament works, but it is a path that clearly opens up with a dominant guard and the right pieces around him where you could have really done some damage. And yeah, they probably could have, just done a better job against that Michigan State team, but that devastates me more than most losses have in my entire life. Brutal.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, it's a good one.
I'm putting that as a second pick. I was awful. I was awful.
It's my freshman year at Maryland. The dorms were going crazy, absolutely crazy. It was like a Sunday afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man,
afternoon?
I was at work in the break room watching it, and
I was so upset during the second half when they went down. I think they went down maybe almost.
We pretty much packed it in. It was like such a.
I was changing the channel. I was so upset. I was like, I can't even.
Vintage Grievous Vasquez, fuck this. This game is mine. Everybody around me, get out of the way. I am going to create. I am going to will us back into this game single-handedly. It was such a microcosm of those hot streaks that he would go on from time to time where he just led the team. And that team as a whole was, there were certainly more talented teams in that tournament, but they were so well constructed. They were just like had all the pieces in terms of, Hayes was a great 3-point shooter. Grievous was Grievous, who could do all kinds of things. Great size for a point guard. Landon Milborn running the baseline, hitting mid-range jumpers. Freshman Jordan Williams. They had some good defenders. Sean Mosley in the mix. Like just
Cliff
a really
Tucker.
well-constructed team that they.
Cliff Tucker, yep.
He was on there too. Yeah, just a team that was like perfectly constructed to get the most out of what that team could. And
that was Gary, though.
Like the ultimate.
Yeah, great. Such a great, incredible coach. Vasquez, by the way, 26 points, 8 assists, 4 rebounds, 3 steals in the game.
God, he was. Can we get Sean to make? Can Sean make us Vasquez jerseys now? Like, I need a Maryland Vasquez jersey.
Yeah. We got to figure out Maryland got to figure out a way to get a deal done with him and get some uniforms out, because
I can get you.
He's just amazing. The Terps have had so many incredible lead guards, and he was just one of a kind. So that's mine. Banks, you have 2.
The 2023 AFC Championship game.
I knew that's what you were going to take.
I'm just never going to get over it.
I wrote it down before you said
it's very difficult for me to try to think about whether or not I'll get over it until it's like probably until next Friday, when whatever parade is completed. Not even Monday after the Super Bowl.
What tough phrase. Does it hurt that bad? Like, even if it's to Mahomes, it's not like if it was to CJ Stroud, I would be like, yeah, that's.
I think it does. It's such
worse.
A winnable game. It was such a winnable game.
We are so much better than that football team this year.
Mm-hmm.
So much better. And teams, every team in the AFC has been praying for the opportunity to make him come to their barn for the AFC Championship game, and we got that opportunity. We were extraordinarily healthy. We had just all the pieces in the right places, and if we have to drill this down even further, it's the fumble. Like I will never stop thinking about the fumble at the 1-yard line. I'm so convinced that we win that football game if he punches that in the end zone. The momentum was all going our way. They couldn't move the ball against us hardly at all. Yeah, they got the big first down that they needed there, but there's so much time left in that game where we're breathing down their necks, and I think we squeeze the will out of them and win that game if he just gets in the end zone, and he didn't. So,
okay,
I'll never get over it.
I agree. You have another?
I'm going to take the death of Omar Little. I'll never get over that. It was so shocking and out of left field, which is kind of the entire point, but you just never see it coming. Taylor, you haven't watched it, so I won't go into further detail, but the ultimate anti-hero in that show, the middleman, clearly the guy that was written to be loved by the audience, and just a really brutal way for him to go.
You want to know how I found out that I started watching it, and I was reading a Jason Whitlock article. So that hand up, that's on me. It was about LeBron. It was in like 2013 or something like that. And literally in the first sentence of the article, he wrote that Omar dies. And I was like, all right, well, okay, thanks, Jason. Appreciate it. So
you got to figure he was going to die at some point. It's just like,
yeah, but he like explained it. He explained who did it, when it happened, and everything. And I was like, oh, well, I guess I could skip that episode now. So yeah, that's a good pick though. That's a very good pick.
That's a good pick.
Thanks, Taylor.
Great pick. This is when this draft was proposed, I really wanted to do a good job, not just taking Maryland related things, but it's very hard for me to not do that to a certain extent. I have to take the Maryland Duke 2001 semifinal. I just, it could have easily been back-to-back national titles. And I don't want to sound greedy because they did come back and win the title the next year, but they're up 1,000,000 points in the first half. They get absolutely screwed by the refs. I mean, there has never been a bigger Duke whistle situation than Maryland Duke 2001 in the Final Four in Minneapolis. It's an absolute joke. You can go back and watch the game. They get absolutely screwed, and I was devastated as a kid. And luckily, as I said, they come back the next year and they win the whole thing. The kids have done it, blah, 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 blah. But it's a team that easily could have won back-to-back titles and had all the pieces to win the title that year. And it just, Coach K shouldn't have that one. He just shouldn't have that one, and he just should not have that one. And he has that one because he's Coach K and because the Terps got no respect. And I hate blaming the refs for games. I'm as people have heard, as I've done this pod, try not to get into that when we do Ravens talk or, whatever. But that is a ref game. I mean, they got screwed by the refs. So I have to have it. I have to have it on my team.
And it just would have been so sweet to beat Duke too. Like that would have just been the ultimate cherry on top.
Yeah. And what's unfortunate is like they definitely, if Duke doesn't just blow it to Indiana in the next year, they could have beaten that Duke team in the final and whatever. It's fine. It's fine. I would have loved to have get the Duke win that mattered in that run never happened in a postseason game, which was a little bit unfortunate. But
well, I mean, we got the ACC one. Like
they
that.
Had the 2004 for sure. 2004 was for sure. If that team does a little more in the NCAA tournament, I think that's better remembered. 20-year anniversary. They're coming back to the game against Illinois. That team,
nice.
A couple weeks, but
nice.
But yeah.
Was that announced?
I have to. I don't know. I'm announcing it right now. I'm announcing it right now.
Breaking news.
Buy your tickets at umterps.com. Just trying to get people in the building. 1984 AC title team as well. We'll just you are set.
This is my reminder to you.
No, they've been requested. You're set.
There you go.
With Arditti, if you need tickets, you let me know.
I may.
And with that, Arditti, you have two selections.
Brady Anderson striking out, swinging at a pitch at his eyes with Cal Ripken on deck in Cal's last game, to end the career.
That's
of
such
Cal
a
Ripken
specific
Jr.
one. That's such a good one.
What are you doing, dude? Like, what? In the ultimate read the room, the pitch was the pitch was at his neck, and he just tried to be hero. I think it was a full count too. And it's like, Brady, buddy, just what are you doing? And it's funny because I when I interviewed Cal at the Jimmy's event, I asked him, I said, "Are you mad at Brady for swinging?" And he said, "No." He said, you tell a 3-year-old not to touch a hot oven, you don't get mad at them when they do it. You get mad at yourself for leaving the oven on or whatever. And I kind of looked at him and he goes, Mike Hargrove did me 6 that night. I think he said 6. He goes, I hadn't batted 6 in my entire career. And he goes, with the last game of my career, you're going to bat me 6? He goes, just bat me first. And this wouldn't happen. So again, if you go back and watch the clip, I'll probably retweet it tonight or something like that. But Brady swings at a brutal pitch. And there's Cal in the on deck circle just waiting with his bat on his shoulder. And that was the last we saw of him. It was over after that. So I just remember being a kid being like, just call a foul tip or something, like, do something, have the catcher drop the ball and let Brady run to first, or give us just one last Cal at bat. And we just didn't get it. And that crushed me. That absolutely crushed season. And nothing to the Orioles. It was a very selfish thing for me to want another Cal at bat. So I'm taking that one. I don't think I'll ever forget it. I know I can get that one later. So I have 3 more left. I have this one and then 2 more. I get that one later. I'll probably steal this one from Brian. Nate McLouth hitting the foul pole in 2012. Again, I think it was pretty clear on the replays they were showing. Brian was in the building. He didn't get to see the replays live, but it was pretty cool. Again, don't want to blame the refs or the umps. That ball hit the foul pole. They showed the white mark on it on TV, and New York cooking. It was the Yankees, so they weren't going to get that call. So right field continues to be a son of a bitch for the Orioles. So hopefully they can buck that trend. But Nate McLouth, 2012, Game 5, wild card. Was that a Friday, Brian? Or was that?
I believe it was. I believe.
Yeah,
I believe I was at Seastone Thursday night when JJ Hardy hit the extra innings double, and me and my buddy bought tickets right then and there.
Yeah, immediately.
And made the trip up the next day.
Yeah, I think it went at like 3:30 first pitch or something like that. Like it was something funky. Like it
wasn't.
Was it night?
But New Yorkers acted like it was. No, it was like a 6:30 game.
Was it?
But
Maybe it was.
yeah,
They acted like it was a 3:30.
Yeah.
Fucking CC. It was a long freeze for him.
Yeah. I'll get my next pick in here. Man, I need to get a Ravens one in here. I'm between two. I'll go with the 2019 game against Arditti's Titans. That was setting up to be one of the all-time great days. The weather was beautiful. The vibes were unbelievable. The Ravens were expected to roll into a potential AFC championship game. And they just never really got out of first gear in the game. Mistakes. And lost to a Titans team that obviously was pretty good, but clearly were more talented then. And the Titans, the rivalry there made it hurt a little more. That was a tough day. That was just, it felt like there's just, that team didn't get beat by the team it was supposed to in terms of getting knocked out of the playoffs. So I'll take that one. That was a tough day. I don't remember. You would think it was around a touchdown, right? I would think.
I was gonna say like 7.5.
Yeah. So that just, I almost took some ones in earlier years than that. I think there's some other Ravens playoff losses to take, but I think about that 2019 game and think of how excited I was to watch that on that day, and it just hurts every single time I think about it. So I'm taking that. Banks, you have two. Banks now apparently logging on two devices here. Do I need to add him on this other one? I guess I add him. Now we have double Banks.
Can you hear me?
We can. I'm going to try to remove you. I'm going to remove your other version. And now we have single Banks on his phone.
My laptop is dying and my charger's downstairs.
Banks, if you had nerd, I took 2019 Titans or Ravens. You now have two picks.
I'm going to take Raul Banya's entire existence in that same series.
Yeah.
Just one of those seasons where, gosh, it seems to happen this way, where somebody's just so awesome and perfect all year, and then finally the big moment comes for them to just continue to be awesome, and they just aren't. Jim Johnson, really tough to watch. And this happened to Zach Britton a little bit too against the Royals. He couldn't forgot how to throw a strike, which was just stunning, absolutely stunning. But to really be 21 years old and not really have any tangible memories of Orioles playoff baseball, and for that to be the way that entire series went, where it was just right there in front of us to go and take it from a team that obviously was beating us up year after year, and just, it was a great opportunity to kind of shock the world, and we didn't get it done. Just didn't get it done.
Mm-hmm.
Can't argue with that. It was terrible. It was terrible. This is a depressing draft.
Yes, it is.
You have another pick.
I never really got over the failed Terrell Owens trade that it didn't go through. I never got over that. Don't know why that one sticks out to me, but I feel like that would have been just such a difference maker for our team at that point in time. I want to say it was 2004. Obviously, he lands on the Eagles. I don't know if he goes to the Super Bowl that exact year, but he would have been just such a difference maker for Kyle Bowler, which I know it's crazy to say, like, oh, maybe things turn out different for old Kyle Bowler, but I don't know. It just would have been a tremendous difference maker for a team that had not had any receiving talent whatsoever since Michael Jackson, which is another weird sentence to say. But just with the way that played out, and it felt like the Ravens should have been they did everything the way that they should have in order to facilitate a trade that they thought was totally legal and legitimate, and by all means it was, but T.O.'s agent just sucks.
Rosenhaus, right?
I want to say it was a guy preceding Rosenhaus. And that's how he landed in Rosenhaus's lap.
Gotcha.
Like, he fucked up the paperwork. I could be wrong on that, but something in terms of like filing for proper free agent status.
Mm-hmm.
Something along those lines.
Gotcha.
So
I'm gonna stray from sports, although I guess not totally. One of my favorite shows of all time is Friday Night Lights, and the show's second season is truly deplorable. Surrounded by a fantastic first season and 3 really good seasons after that. It is so bad. A spoiler alert. If you want to not hear what happened, have you guys watched the show? Do you guys care to be spoiled here?
It's spoiled. I got it spoiled for me.
I have a question for you, a follow-up question.
But I'm going to let people, if you want to click forward 30 seconds, you won't be spoiled. Here are some of the things that happened. And thankfully, there was an article that had them all listed, which was great. Matt Saracen begins a relationship with his grandmother's adult caregiver. Team booster Buddy Garrity essentially adopts a teenage linebacker and some random lifeguard called the Swede. And he steals Julie Taylor's heart. And Landry and Tyra killed a guy. Happened in the 15 episodes of the second season of Friday Night Lights, which got cut short by the writer's strike, really saving the show. The show then got moved on to a different platform and got saved.
I was going to clarify when you said 1 great first season, then 3 other great seasons. In my head, for whatever reason, it's the murder that really jumps out as the most ridiculous part of that entire show, which is a ridiculous show as a whole.
I was going to say the murder as the single thing that was in this, and then this article reminded me of the other ridiculous things that happened in the second season. So I gave it second season role, but really it comes down to the fact that they had Landry kill a guy attacking Tyra and just
They really went for it there.
And then the season ends because of the writer's strike, and they just never mentioned it again. They just never mentioned it again and get the show. And they get the show back on track. Then they get the show back on track.
It felt like that happened late in the show, but it didn't.
Yeah,
because there is kind of like 2 shows in a way with the way that, with coach switching high schools and stuff.
100%. Yeah. And it becomes a better show once they figure out that part of it in season 3. But season 2 is so bad, and it's because the ratings are bad and they had to go for it. Season 1 is so good, but I remember watching it and being like, what are they doing? Like, what is happening? So I'll take that. It made me not want to watch the show anymore. And then when the show came back, I didn't watch it. I didn't pick it back up initially when it came back because I was like, this show's terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why would I go back and watch this? And then it was like, oh, the show's amazing. So Friday Night Lights is remembered as, one of the better dramas of that era that maybe is a little under the radar. And it's not because of that 15 episode second season. That season stinks. So, Arditti, you have 2 more picks here.
All right. I'm going Kevin Dyson getting tackled at the half-yard line. It's not going to get any sympathy from anybody, any listeners or anyone on this podcast. But again, pretty brutal way to lose the Super Bowl and not really come close ever since. Yeah, that's just kind of summed it up. Getting tackled at the half-yard line by a guy named Mike Jones. That's pretty much it. Sucks. Can't stop thinking about it. We'll never stop thinking about it.
Wouldn't it be crazy if they put Mike Jones in the Hall of Fame like they put Bill Mazeroski?
Just for that play? Yeah.
I know Mazeroski, great fielder and stuff, but
they should have a one-play Hall of Fame. Like Raul Ibanez would be in the one-play Hall of Fame.
Let's put a pin in this.
Yeah,
let's put a pin in this one.
This is cooking.
I think that can I say the guy that they would name this after? I guess he has multiple plays, but he's clearly a one-play guy.
What sport?
Basketball.
Robert Horry.
Robert Horry.
Yeah, it's Robert Horry. It's the Robert Horry Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I like that. I like this. This is a good. Yeah, this is good. Brian, let's put
that's a pin. Now, we won't name any others. It just had to be said that he feels clearly like the guy this is named after.
Yeah. Like,
and I know it's multiple game-winning shots, but it's just so clearly that he has no other memorable moments.
Just the ball just found him.
3 game-winning shots.
Yeah.
That's a great one. We'll come back to that.
Okay. That one.
Artie, you have your last pick here.
The chicken selects leaving McDonald's. We'll never get it. Chicken selects.
Good pick. Good pick.
That and buffalo sauce. I mean,
This was good. This is on my honorable mention list. I wasn't gonna take it, but it's on my list.
For me, I mean, again, I remember sitting in my buddy's passenger seat. He would always drive me around, and we would just, I mean, late night, just fucking munching on chicken selects and buffalo sauce. Just the best, the absolute best. And I don't know why they haven't come back. I think didn't we say they come back? They came back before, like. Can't remember if they did or not, but
there was a little mini chicken tender war there for a minute in like 2007 or so.
There absolutely was.
Yeah.
But again, it's something that seems like you can easily replicate. Like you'd think they'd be able to just bring it back. Like I don't know, but yeah, that really killed me when they took it away and just never brought it back. So McDonald's executives, if you're listening, that keep the crunch wrap or not the crunch wrap, the snack wrap. I'm okay without. It was fine. I would never have ordered it by itself, but chicken selects was a hardcore staple of young RDT's.
Chicken selects were really good. They banged.
Yeah, so that's my last one.
I'll finish my draft. I'm still not over the death of the ESPN zone. It was a devastating day when the ESPN zone went away.
Great pick.
I just think there's still a world where that should exist.
Oh my gosh! How many times have I said that ESPN zone should be a giant sports book now? It would revitalize the Inner Harbor.
Yes.
Can I tell you something? They may, now that they have ESPN Bet, this may come back. I would be pretty surprised if that branding came back as a nostalgia play for ESPN branded gaming type things. It just feels like that's the way they should go. I'll let the folks at ESPN and Penn Gaming figure that one out, but it's a brand I think that has some value in the demographic that is doing a lot of the gambling, which is like the 25 to 50 type of crowd that kind of experienced that in its heyday. So
is that Hard Rock Cafe still open?
I think so.
Yes.
That's maybe the most shocking thing in the world.
The bookstore closed. There's still I think Dick's Last Resort closed. Phillips is still there. Oh, we don't say that word.
There's the banner is in there now.
Which is where ESPN Zone is a joke. The banner's there. The Ravens actually have a small office there. I don't know what for.
I know. I mean,
the Commanders just put an office in College Park.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere. So
because I was at the aquarium with JoJo and our buddy this weekend, and he was like, "Oh shit, that's where ESPN Zone is." He hadn't been down to the Inner Harbor in a while, and I was like. So and the ESPN Zone was fresh on my mind. So that's.
I'm far enough removed now, I guess, from this job where I could talk about it a little more. I used to work for the company that's more or less the landlord of that building, and I found the file deep on the drive of our company of like the liquidation of all the ESPN Zone stuff. It was quite an afternoon, me just rolling through pictures of like the Papa shots and the hockey shooting game and like all that stuff. It's just like in a corner, a shitty photo taken with a Kodak digital camera that got uploaded to the drive, and I'm just looking at that stuff like I can't believe that they went and sold this thing, and somebody probably has it in their basement, and I'm just so jealous of them.
There was a website where you could go on and like bid for the stuff. Yeah, like me and my friends used to just eat chicken selects and be in our buddy's basement. And we're like, dude, could you imagine if we bought the basketball hoop and like if we had this, we had like $11 between us. Like we should get this, we should get that, and never ever came close. But yeah, that would be awesome. It needs to come back. It definitely does.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like as ESPN evolves from potentially less of making money on the like cable fees and stuff and more towards like a licensing play of the brand. I could see this like it makes sense. Would potentially make sense for Disney to like sell the licensing rights for like themed locations of restaurants or sports books. That feels like that will happen at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Someone will use the IP to try to get people in. I love this. I went to the ESPN Zone Wikipedia. The C alsos are fantastic. Dave & Buster's, Nike Town, GameWorks, Planet Hollywood, and Rainforest Cafe. Those are the C alsos on ESPN Zone.
I guess this is a great opportunity for me to mention there used to be an indoor amusement park in that power plant building where ESPN Zone is.
Really?
Look it up. It's like a Six Flags indoor amusement park. That's an interesting read. It was like in the 70s.
That is a prime location for a Rainforest Cafe.
I need a Rainforest
Cafe. Oh my God!
Cafe.
Me and my coworkers actually were talking about Rainforest Cafes. There's still a handful left.
I'm reading it. There's 1, 2, 3, 4,
There's one
5,
in
6,
Edison, New
7, 8,
Jersey.
9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 in the U.S., including one that was right by our hotel in Nashville when we were there for the Music City Bowl. We drove past it like 700 times. And then there's 6 internationally. France, Japan, Canada, 2 in the UAE, and Malta. What a group. And then a bunch of former locations, including Towson, Maryland, the legendary Towson Town Center Rainforest Cafe that was open for 2 years.
Is there still one in
Unbelievable.
Atlantic City?
Yes, there is.
Yes.
There's a
boys
deeper.
trip.
I swear I was on this page yesterday. I'm not even kidding.
That's not. Yeah, there's two in Disney Springs
cut,
and Animal Kingdom.
Deeper Cut, Bugaboo Creek. I don't know if you guys ever went to one of those or saw one of those. It is like animatronics, and it's a very large, like Canada mooses kind of theme.
Sounds like
Bugaboo Creek Steakhouse. There used to be one in Rockville. Used to be a birthday spot back in the day.
Love that.
I do love that as well. Let's see the most recent one of these that's been opened. God, they opened one in Las Vegas in 2015. The 2 in the UAE have opened in the last 2 years. That's crazy.
UAE, that's nuts.
That's crazy.
They probably love it. They're like, "This is so America. This is great. Look at these fucking idiots and their."
Are there Planet Hollywoods? We've totally got off the rails here. Are there Planet Hollywoods left? Wow, there's 3 Planet Hollywood restaurants
One in New York
left.
City, Times Square.
There's one in the LA. There's one at LAX. There's one at Disney Springs, and there's one in Doha, Qatar, according to Wikipedia. And then 3 Planet Hollywood resorts. Goa, which is in Portugal, apparently, maybe.
Sure.
Hard to tell. It just says Portuguese. No, that's not where that is. That can't be right. I'm having a hard time figuring out where this is. Oh, India. Sorry. Costa Rica, Cancun, and Vegas. What a scene. So there you have it. Last pick, Banks. We can talk more chain restaurants.
Come to my understanding that this also may have come back or may now be back, but the discontinuation of cream savers, particularly strawberry cream savers, was especially devastating to me. I think it's an all-time snack. Hard candy. I'm not necessarily a hard candy guy by any means, but it is by far the GOAT in that category. Just disappeared, and I think it was unanimously loved. I couldn't find anyone who didn't love a good strawberry cream saver. So,
sure. Yeah. I was never a giant cream saver guy, but people swear by them, so I'm not gonna argue with the pick.
I'm with you. They were awesome. They were really, really good.
Honorable mentions. Oh well, let me go over the draft here. I guess we haven't done this in a while. Arditti, Jeffrey Mayer game. Brady Anderson striking out in Cal's last game. Nate McLeod hitting the foul pole. Kevin Dyson getting tackled the 1 in chicken selects. I actually think we kind of came into our own here at the end of the draft. I took the 2010 Maryland-Michigan State game, the Maryland-Duke 2020, 2001 semifinal, 2019 Titans-Ravens, Friday Night Lights Season 2, a.k.a. The Murder, and the death of the ESPN Zone. Banks takes the death of Omar Little, the 2023 AFC Championship. I flip those in order. Raul Ibanez's general existence, the failed Terrell Owens trade, and the death of specific types of cream savers. The Cundiff game has to get mentioned here.
Yeah.
I feel in terms of I'm now a little shocked that I didn't take it. The wild card game in Toronto is probably a pretty big snub.
Yeah, the
Bucs. I saw that coming the whole way once.
Yeah, it's just I think the
multiple jams and then put him in.
It's really just the end decision to put Ubaldo in the game is the only reason that's like a tough loss. If you die with Britton on the mound, you don't feel as bad about that game.
Yeah, or
you're like, all right, we put our best guy out there.
If you put in Bundy, then it's like, okay, well, you know. But I'm also I'm in the camp that team was not very good. The 2016, like they weren't going to win the World Series. That team,
Get
on me all you want because people are like, he didn't put him in. It's like they weren't going to go that far anyway. Like that loss, that playoff loss has not hung with me as long as I thought it would have. Like I was like, okay, that sucked, but whatever.
Anything? The other thing I had Maryland wise, I have some like very deep cut Maryland ones, but I don't think there's any need to go into those. The Gone in 60 Seconds game is a brutal memory. Every time Duke tweets that every year, it makes you want to just get very upset. So
yeah.
Banks, anything?
The death of Littlefoot's mother in Land Before Time.
Horrible,
That one especially
horrible.
sticks out to me.
Oh my God, how do you not take that? That is an
Yeah.
incredible pick.
Yeah. No,
Oh
it
my
was,
God, Littlefoot.
It was right
Devastation.
there. It was a very close call for me here, and honestly, I got a little bit on tilt when my monitor with my laptop went off. That I had my list there, but that was extraordinarily devastating.
Good pick.
That's a great pick.
I'll be
God,
honest.
Littlefoot.
The Seahawks Patriots Super Bowl interception really ate me to my core. Just like for them to be able to have that moment is just disgusting to me, and it really just eats at me still to this day. Doesn't help either that we kind of had them by the balls 3 weeks prior in New England, but that one really bugs me. Mark Clayton dropping a 4th down pass at Gillette in like a September regular season game. That one, for whatever reason, has always stuck with me. And then you can do the Cundiff thing, you can do the Lee Evans thing, but nobody seems to remember. I've brought this up before. This may have been Joe Flacco's best throw in his career. 4th and 18 to TJ Houshmandzadeh against Pittsburgh in 2010. That drop was right in his breastplate. It was a 1st down. He was going to drive down the field and go win the game. And I can go even deeper on that particular year. Stevie Johnson of the Buffalo Bills dropping an overtime touchdown that would have beaten the Steelers, that would have knocked them off the top of the division, that would have put Baltimore in the bye, and also they would have hosted that game. I don't think Ray Rice fumbles out of half at home. I don't think he does it. So if we can do the domino meme or butterfly effect, whatever, Stevie Johnson dropping an overtime touchdown against Pittsburgh in like November. That one, I'm not sure if I'll ever forgive Stevie Johnson, but it was not him. It was on God.
Yeah, I was going to say that was the famous. We were at my grandmother's funeral, literally in the funeral home.
Please.
We were in the funeral home during the funeral and in Pittsburgh watching that game. And like, you could hear all the cousins in the back room go nuts. And then it came out after the game where they were like, yeah, does he blame God? Like, he just happened to blame God.
If true Twitter existed at that time, that would have been unbelievable.
It would have been fantastic content.
The tweet was, this is in all caps. I praise you 24/7, 5 exclamation points. And this is how you do me, 5 exclamation points again. You expect me to learn from this? 3 question marks. How? 3 question marks, 3 exclamation points. I'll never forget this. 2 exclamation points. Ever. 3 exclamation points. Thanks, though.
How many like what are the interactions on? It probably has like 75 retweets, like 150 likes.
I don't see a screenshot that has it. I don't see a screenshot that has the engagement on it.
Yeah, it's one of those like it would have done numbers.
It can't be still on his. It's also, by the way, this is true to your heart. He tweeted from an iPad.
Smyth rinsing a couple balls in Augusta.
I had that as well. That
one, that was tough.
I haven't totally gotten over the effect that the Tiger scandal had on me as a youth. That was like shocking. Like the buildup of the Tiger myth was like he was kind of unassailable as a human, even though if you as a kid you don't like get into like the fact that he was kind of weird on the golf course and weird publicly, but you're like, God, this is like the guy. And then for him to just be like an absolute serial cheater was kind of stunning. I remember being like absolutely flabbergasted by that. Which I think that reaction would change like right now if that happened as an adult, but some of the Stevie Johnson stuff here on Google Images is very funny in regards to this. And then Stevie, what a TMZ headline. NFL star Stevie Johnson lets God off the hook. Oh my God. No, I did not blame God, people. Seriously, come on. I simply cried out and asked why, just like y'all did when something went wrong in your life. Sure.
Yeah, sure. Sounds good.
That's fine, Steve. Any other honorable mentions? We'll get to Nick Cannon Medley, then we'll get out of here.
I had Madden turning into a piece of shit game franchise, and then Rose not letting Jack on the door.
But
Fuck 'em.
I think it needs to be revisited here before of how sad a kids movie Land Before Time is.
Oh,
That
it's
is
awful.
a devastating.
brutal.
Devastating.
Brutal. And we watch it over and over and over, just like willingly.
Yeah.
And like again, and my mom's like, "Yeah, sure, play it again."
It's devastating.
Same thing. I mean,
Some other
I
kids was like the Bambi mother dying is a brutal one.
I thought about
Yeah.
putting like a Homeward Bound, thing in there, but that is
Charlotte's
Yeah,
Web.
like Marley and
Charlotte's
Me.
Web is unbelievably sad. Marley and Me.
Yeah.
I mean, you could do a
Yeah.
bunch of sad
Apollo
movies.
Creed was tough too.
Very tough. If he dies, he dies. It's if he dies, he dies is a legendary line. It makes it a little cartoonish as it's all going on. If you're supposed to be devastated, it's like really. As Rocky's like looking up at him, cradling his head in his arms. There's a YouTube has there's a Rocky YouTube channel, and they have all the workout Rocky scenes all in a compilation that I watched the other day. I love those movies. Love those movies. Yeah, there's a lot of movie and TV deaths we could probably have popped in here, but
Yeah.
Nick Cannon-Medley.
Future, whenever Larry David dies, I'm already not over it.
Oh, come on.
Jeez. By the way, what unbelievable marketing that is for him to fight Elmo. That is master manipulation of his entire brand. So good. So good. Just the Today Show people look stunned as it's going on. That is one of the great. That may be not challenge is the best clip of 2024. Something will eventually beat it because we have a long year ahead of us. But I watched that clip like 14 times, and that's in the same week as we had the Fast Car duet, which was also unbelievable.
The memes have been incredible. They're so good.
Nick Cannon-Medley, Maryland Person of the Week. Arditti, I'll start with you.
I may be taking Brian's, but I'm just going to take the easy layup here, and it's Larry David for the last season of Kirk coming back. I thought this episode was fine. I thought it was good.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't, it's one of the better ones, but I thought it was good. I laughed. I'm excited to buckle up and enjoy the last ride. And again, it's nice to just see Larry back doing Larry things, like him saying he doesn't give a shit about Taylor Swift and Travis was perfect and the Elmo thing was great. So again, I'm happy Larry's back in our lives and I'm excited to see. I'll call my shot. I think he dies somehow in this season. I think the last episode ends with him dying in a very funny way. It's going to be something. I don't know how, but I think it's going to be something like that. So that's my
Maybe
official
he'll put himself in jail.
That would be funny.
That would play back.
That would be good. Just as a fuck you to everybody who hated it.
Yeah.
That could be good.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm going with Larry.
Brian.
I suppose I'll do a co. I'll knock out a couple celebrity deaths here. I just mentioned him. Carl Weathers was maybe a week or two ago. That was a tough one. Just a great, I don't know if you call it a cameo, but Arrested Development. Just all the different things where he just obviously Chubbs is great. Apollo Creed is what he's most well known for, but
just had a renaissance as in The Mandalorian too. That was sort of his last couple years thing.
Yeah. Now you got a stew going. That's great. And then got to hit up Toby Keith here. That was a stunner. I hadn't really, I think, grasped the idea that he was sick. He was doing concerts a month and change ago. But iconic. Iconic. All-time American. All-time American.
R.I.P. to Toby. That was sudden. I didn't even realize he had cancer. That was I had not seen that. Yeah. Tough week in the celebrity death.
Yeah, I feel like there are cancers when they get announced where it's oh yeah, he's got cancer, but they got it early, it's fine. There's not alarm bells, and that felt like one of them. And then it was I woke up at 5:30 in the morning and it was oh, he's dead. It's what?
Yeah. Very, very sad.
Tough.
Yeah. Sad pod.
Not over
here for the last half. I mean, you have to get this out of the way. Taylor Swift, album of the year 4 times. No one's ever done it. Okay, the haters are going to come for the lack of giving Celine Dion a 45-second hug. Would have been nice if she'd, gone up and done that early, but whatever. People are getting annoyed that she's, threatening legal action against college juniors. That's what you do when you're on top. You can do that stuff. New album, It's going to be a banger. Joe Alwyn's on witness protection watch. He's in a world of trouble based on those song titles. And I'm excited to listen to it. April 19th. So should be fun. And she's back on tour in Tokyo last night. I think in Tokyo next 2 nights, and I'm sure she'll be at the Super Bowl. So, people are starting to apparently get tired of her. I'm certainly not, and I never will. So, yes, was she a part of the side that ripped our hearts out a couple weeks ago? Sure. And that was tough. But look, if she and Travis Kelce have a great relationship, it has nothing to do with football. So,
her and Post doing a song. I'm pumped for that.
Yeah. Yep. Influence in the Machine should also be a banger.
Yeah. Those should be very, very good songs.
So Taylor does have a weird history about sometimes when she does the collaborations, she doesn't put the collaborator on maybe enough of the song sometimes. But I think with Posty, it's going to be kind of a Posty vibe, you would think.
She better.
Yeah.
So I have to say.
Gotta give it to Taylor. Nice Grammys. Good performances.
Could have done without her standing up during the entire fast car performance, but hey, just
I would
that's
be doing
the
that
stuff
too.
where I'm like, just
yeah.
You can't act surprised when the camera's in your face and you're the only one standing up singing in 3.5 minutes.
The fast car has taken the internet by storm. The performance, it's really good.
Yeah.
Luke Combs looks totally bewildered that he's in this position. He's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
He's like, I've had this song out for a year, this cover out for a year. I can't believe I'm on the stage with Tracy Chapman. So.
Yeah. It's a great song. Great performance. Great everything about it.
Good for him. Before we get out of here, RDT, do you want to announce the breaking Orioles news?
Yes. Nick Maton? Matan? I don't know.
No idea.
Welcome to Birdland. Cash considerations out the door yet again. So I think
big infusion of money from Papa Rube. That's what happens. Cash considerations. Just
you got Magna Carta money. You can trade for anybody you want, including Nick Maton, Matan, anything like that. So yeah,
welcome to Birdland.
He hit like 8 home runs in 93 games last year while hitting like $173. So
perfect.
Bring him on, baby. Bring him on.
Yep.
Where are you for the Nick Maton, Matan, whatever trade?
Orioles keep on winning.
The rich just keep getting richer, baby. Except for they send more money away. So that's not how it works.
That'll do it for this week's episode of the Exit 52 podcast. Appreciate everyone's support of the pod over the course of the Ravens season. Obviously, we'll continue with Ravens coverage in the offseason. Spenny and Jake doing their thing on the jumbo set. Us talking about all the different storylines, but had some awesome growth in podcast listens, YouTube, some social stuff. So just appreciate all the support and the people that come up to us. We were standing there at the AFC Championship game before the game, and people are coming just high-fiving Banks, getting ready to go. And that stuff's always cool to see. So appreciate everyone's support. Make sure to go like and subscribe, X52 on all the different podcast platforms. Give us those 5-star reviews and ratings. YouTube would be huge if people can subscribe to that. That's a great place to kind of watch us obviously in video form. But I think those instant analysis hit more when you're watching them on video than in audio. It's just there's so many shenanigans, especially on those last couple that we've done. So make sure to go check out the YouTube page for different content that we have going on. You can follow us all on social media at Exit52. Podcast on all your social media platforms. And that for Eric at EDITTI22, Banks at Barstool Banks, me at Taylor Smyth 10, Jake at Jake Louque, his name LOUQUE, and then Spenny at Ravens for Dummies. Make sure to go buy your tickets for the TailGOAT opening day against the Angels. DJ Pauly D performing in the Exit 52 boys, doing some live podcasting from the TailGOAT. Always a great time, and appreciate our title sponsor Jimmy C for giving us that opportunity and for all the great things they do to support Baltimore sports and this podcast. Fellas, always a pleasure. And we'll see everyone next time on the Exit 52 podcast presented by Jimmy's Seafood.